Hi, everyone. I'm Rhonda Ellis.
And I'm Melissa Sutton. And this is Cultivating a Home,
the podcast. This is a place where we will talk about what really matters, growing in our walk with Christ, building strong marriages, raising our children with intention, and creating peaceful, life-giving homes centered on Him.
We'll share practical encouragement, real-life stories, and biblical truth to help you cultivate a heart and home that reflects Jesus. New episodes are every Thursday, so let's step into today's conversation together. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again today. We are going to continue our conversation about hospitality, but we are going to expand it a little bit to talk about some creative ways that you can practice hospitality. Maybe not specifically with having people over in your home and having a meal, which of course is a great way, but to be a little bit more creative and think of other ways to show hospitality. And Rhonda, I wanted to bring up the story that I have heard you talk about before about years ago, probably 15 years ago, when Laura and Heather had a sweet friend that had cancer, and they were really young at this time. And a way that you guys were able to show hospitality in that time to her family, and to the friends that they all had was having that group over and having a prayer time for her and ministering to her in a way because she was in the hospital, and how to show hospitality to her in that situation, and also show hospitality to her brothers. Because as we know, when somebody in your family is going through something like that, siblings, how to minister to them during that time. But go back and talk about when you guys had everybody over to your house and prayed.
Well, the friend's name was Ashlyn, and it was middle school. And I really thought it was an opportunity to show the kids, my own kids, but the youth group, how to love someone going through something that they probably weren't familiar with. And we had them over and we prayed for her, and we made a big banner. That's something that our family has always kept on hand, is a roll of butcher paper. You can get it at Sam's, but we've used it a lot where we just unrolled that and wrote that we're praying for her, we love her, in big letters, and then the youth signed it. And then we put verses that we prayed for her, and then we took it to the hospital for her to have in her room, and just to have the kids recognize when someone's going through a hard time, to be present with them and to be willing to be in an uncomfortable situation. And one of the things I remember doing was taking Laura and Heather to go to the hospital. And this is before I had any children that also later would go through cancer. So this was my first time around this. And we called the mom and told her we were, on the way to the hospital. I was trying to be super delicate and careful because I didn't know how to walk through this with her. And I remember her saying, she's not up for any company right now. And well, that's something that we want to respect and be careful about. So we left the banner in the nurse's station. And I was able to tell my daughter, who really wanted to see her friend, just explain the situation, like she's not feeling up to company right now. In other words, even in a situation like that, somebody might feel a temptation to feel rejected, but that's not it, because our focus is on the other person. And so whatever they want is what we want to honor. And we left that banner, and later we we heard back from them that it really meant a lot. And all the kids had signed it, but we also put fake signatures on there. We just signed like the President of the United States, and then we put, "This is forgery," next to each of the fake signatures, just to add a little humor. And we put her favorite people, like Lecrae was her favorite artist. So we signed Lecrae's name and put, "This is forgery," next to it. So just teaching our kids how to love others well.
Yeah, that is a creative way to be hospitable and to show hospitality is, having people over still, but the focus of having people over that time was to pray and to make this banner for a friend and then be able to share that with her. Also, maybe sometimes somebody's going through a hard time and you don't have people over to have food, but you have people over just to watch a movie, or you have people over just to play games. You might just put out candy and popcorn and some drinks and call it a day. But again, it's not about you. It's not about, I'm going to impress these people. You're just having them over just to lighten their load.
Yeah, it's about the experience
Mhm.
of cultivating friendships together and laughing and, sharing our hearts with each other. And sometimes conversations can go deep, and other times it's just simply laughing with friends.
That's good. Talk about going back to the last conversation a little bit about some barriers, again, that might come up when trying to be intentional of being and showing hospitality.
Well, I think one of the barriers that we need to reduce is we could feel unprepared. And so let's think about some ways that we could be prepared. And so that would reduce one of the stress levels that we have. And it could be, think of some easy meals for you. And this could vary from person to person, but it could be spaghetti and garlic bread and salad. And even if that's like, okay, that's too much, ask your friend to bring salad. Ask the other friend you're inviting to bring the bread, and you're just bringing the spaghetti or making the spaghetti. Another thing you can do with spaghetti sauce is you can make it ahead of time. I mean, obviously you can open a jar and pour it. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to add like ground turkey or ground beef to it, and I like to chop up red, yellow, green peppers and onions and put that within the turkey, ground turkey or the ground beef that I'm using, I can pour the sauce on that, heat it up, but I can put that in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. And I've got it later if I am gone for the day and I get home 1 hour before the company comes over. It's already been made. All I have to do is heat it up, and it tastes so good. But there's that, and there's frozen lasagna. I know, lots of chemicals and things like that. But I'm just saying, like, match the energy level, the time commitment, the time availability that you do have. Identify stress points for you of what are the barriers, and then think, how can I solve this problem so that I can feel the freedom to share my home, share my family, share my food with others.
Yeah, and having some stuff on hand that you just always have because you don't want to run out of it. I remember during COVID, I had heard somebody say, what do you start to get a little panicky about if you don't have it? Like, what's making you a little nervous of just in case you run out of it and you can't get it? And my first thought was, coffee. Please help us not to run out of the coffee. But what are some other things that you like to have around that you just like to have and that you know that you're not going to run out of it?
I think, okay, not only for meals, but if somebody was just to drop by, or I wanted to invite some ladies over for brunch or lunch, or my kids want to have their friends over, last minute notice, what are things that could be easy? Make some brownies, slice them into the size square you want, or rectangle if you prefer. Put them in a gallon Ziploc bag in the freezer. And then you can pull that out and put it in the microwave for like 10 to 20 seconds. Put chocolate syrup on it and ice cream on top, and you are ready to go. There's also frozen cookie dough. You can just take that. I mean, not frozen. There is frozen, but you can put it, they have big tubs of it too, or the rolls of it. And you have that on hand, ready to just make some hot cookies. Or you can make up your own cookie dough and freeze that. And then you're ready to make cookies, according to the number of people that you have over. And some people have a special, type of Mexican dish that they like to make for chips and dip, or chips and salsa. Okay, but think about what are your go-tos and just have them on hand, ready to go. When we were talking about meals a little bit ago, I mentioned in the last episode about that Mississippi roast. That is so good. And it is so easy. It is put it in a crock pot, like a roast in there, and then sprinkle it with, I don't know how to say the word, ox juice.
A Jew.
There you go. Ox juice.
Close enough.
Say it again.
A Jew.
1 package of that
Mm-hmm.
and 1 package of ranch dressing. Just sprinkle it on top. You have not put any water in it. And then 1 stick of butter on top of that with like 5 pepperoncini.
Yep.
Put that on top and put it on low setting for 5 or 6 hours. If you keep a roast on hand and those products, you are going to be the bomb diggity.
You're going to love yourself. You're going to love that you've done that for yourself.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that on hand, but think of some recipes that don't stress you out. And then you're prepared. If your husband says, hey, can we invite these people over? Sure. Will you help me in the kitchen though? To make it all happen? Or you already have the ingredients on hand?
Yeah. The importance is kind of try to, eliminate the barriers before they even come.
Yeah. Think about right today. I was to say, I want you to have over some company. And you're like, oh, I can't do that because, well, that's your stress barrier, whatever it is that you just thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now you know that today that's what is preventing you from doing it. And then looked for ways to solve it. If it's your perfectionist tendencies, like I do not have the lines on my carpet with the vacuum cleaner like I would like. Okay. Change your mindset. You don't have to have that. But if it's my house is a complete disaster, well, that is something to consider. Well, I probably should work on that for my whole family to feel a little bit better in our home in general.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not trying to be a perfectionist. Or if it's, I don't know what to cook, well, think through, okay, what can be 5 easy meals or even 1 easy go-to meal for now that when I have company, I'm going to do for a while. And then maybe you can add a second meal to it.
The point is to relieve the stress that you might have. One way I think that we talked about in the earlier episode was, a barrier might be that you're super introverted, super shy, and that carrying conversation is hard for you or talking to people is hard for you. Well, invite people over that are great at that, or invite people over there that are more extroverted.
Yes. And also, sometimes it's easier to invite a couple of people over so that it's not just 2 people or 2 couples. Invite a couple different, more than that, so that you've got a variety of conversations that can take place with a mixture of personality types. And, introverts are amazing at being good listeners. Oftentimes.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, extroverts also can be for sure. But I think introverts maybe would be the ones more so thinking, I don't know what else to say. Well, you could think ahead of time about the person's interest. What is the daily rhythm? Where do they work? Think about these things. Or if you think about them and then you're like, well, I don't know where they work. Well, that's a question to ask. Or just think about, what can I ask to get to know them better? And don't be so caught up on your questions and having everything right so much as, if I just keep my attention on the fact that I want to get to know them. Lord, please help me with conversation and questions so that at the end of the day, I know them better and they know me better and I can learn about them. And help me just to offer a place that is comfortable and relaxing and joyful. And, I think those are the goals for it.
Yeah.
You ask also about some never run out of items. And I would think also you not only want to have like an easy dessert and then an easy meal, but maybe like we mentioned, an easy appetizer, but also things that you use in entertaining in general. Like some people use paper plates and that's fine. Other people, use real plates. So you want to make sure that you have enough of whatever it is and enough napkins and silverware and seating for the guests to sit at, or that maybe you don't have enough seats at your dining table, but where will they seat so that we can all see, hear each other? It could be on your porch. So kind of think, where do you want the flow of the eating and the conversation to take place within your home? Just think through it and think, how can I make this the most relaxing time possible? And I want you to remember, guests won't remember whether you serve an elaborate meal or what. Most of the time, they won't even remember that. What they're going to remember is that you welcomed them, and they're going to remember that you opened your home to them.
One verse that you and I talked about was Luke 14:12, which says, "He said also to the man who had invited him, 'When you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just.'" So inviting people over that cannot repay you, inviting somebody over who is, and what this says is the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, maybe people who do not have, the resources that you have. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think a question for us to ask ourselves is, when is the last time that we invited over someone who isn't our closest friends? And okay, I think it's awesome to have our good friends over. We certainly should do that. But that verse is saying to look beyond that and to use hospitality as a way to love others who can't repay at all. So I would look around your communities, look around your church group, look your neighborhood, the ballpark you're at, the grocery store, the lady that rings you up at the store you like to shop at. Just say, "Lord, let me have eyes for other people and be willing to host them in my home. If you put it on my mind, I want to be obedient to that." That could be like the widow in your area. It could be a friend of yours who's lost her husband, and it used to be you did things as a couple, and now she's a widow, and the dynamics have changed, but she still needs your friendship just like ever before. And so continuing on with that friendship the same. And I think a lot of people get stumped when a factor has changed, but loving that person, it could be an elderly person in your neighborhood, just inviting her in to have a cookie with you. And if you have little ones in your home, teaching them, "Hey, we're going to have over our neighbor, and I want y'all to ask her about her childhood or how she met her husband." You can talk about questions that they could engage in, and you probably know your neighbor better than they do, so you could direct some appropriate questions that would be really meaningful to that lady in your neighborhood. But just loving on others, using your home as a way to just encourage and just be present for others, and including your children in that process. And it could be your children's friends, family. You might not know them at all, but the connection you could call and say, "Hey, we would love to have you over because our daughter has talked about your daughter so much, and we would just love to get to know you." And there's all kinds of things. We've invited over people that we've met at the store who we found out were new to the area, or at church. There's been new people that have come or visiting in the church, and we've said, "What are you doing for lunch today?" And they've come over. So anytime God put someone on your heart, just when you've dealt with these insecurities that we all have, when you've dealt with them, these barriers, and you've worked through them, then you're much more apt to say, "Okay, yes, Lord, I'll do that. Yes, Lord." And that's exciting. Yeah, I remember this time when, I've been practicing the art of hospitality for years, and it really is easy once we work through, like I said, these certain barriers that each of us has. And I had a home that I had purchased that I wanted to use to rent. And I had an open house, and a man came in and said, now remember, this is the first time I had a house to rent, and I was so worried about getting somebody to rent it. I didn't know how this all worked. And so this man came in and he said, "Would you be willing to have 16 boys stay in your home?" First of all, I don't know if that's okay to do, but I said yes because I was a little worried about having an income, rent coming in. And he explained to me that he had a local ministry where these students came from all over the world and were taught about the Lord. And then they were like there for 4 to 6 months, and then they would send them out into different places in the world and in the United States and, proclaim Christ and use the training that they just got. So I said yes. And one day I went to visit the house. Oh, first of all, it was really interesting to see all of a sudden this man came with a group of, these kids were like 18 to 25 or something like that. They all came in and they put up 2 bunk beds per bedroom.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, what am I doing? And I went back to check on something, during their stay, and the house was immaculate. The shoes were all lined up in the garage, right by the door where you would go in. The beds were made up. It was so incredible. There was one chair that was like a dining chair that was against, like kind of in a random place. So I moved it back to the table, and there was a little hole in the wall where they had probably kicked the ball or something in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, before they left, they totally repaired it. You can even tell that hole was there. But I wasn't worried about it because of how neat everything looked. But I asked the man in charge of all of the missionaries, I said, we would like to have these guys over to our house. And he was stunned. He said, we've been doing this for so many years, this ministry, this schooling. And he said, we have never had an American ask us to invite us into their home. Never. And I said, well, we would love to do that. And we had them all over. We made, meal for them. And then we had a lot of outdoor activities to do. It was so much fun. But what they did that was unexpected to me was they had a little presentation for us of songs and testimonies. And it was really sweet. What was so incredible that I said, we would like to have over all of your students, because we were just one home. There were other homes that they had students at, because he said, do you have any other homes?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew there were more, and I said, we would like to have everybody. He said, are you sure there's 100?
Oh my.
And I said, yes, we want to have everybody over. And now keep in mind, we had worked our way up to this being easy for our family.
Right.
We just had that little spiral notebook that I told you about last time, and we just worked off the list. Everybody helped. And everybody did it with the good attitude because they're used to it, because there's not yelling. It's not about us, not about our home being perfect. It's just about like, what can we do to make this fun and enjoyable to them, to introduce them to different things here in the States, different foods or whatever. And do the windows need to be washed this time? No. Maybe they did last time, but this time, no. Do you see, you want your children to be on board, no arguing, because it's about the other people and how we can bless them. And all of them came over, had a lot of outdoor activities, things that we'd learned from our youth camp, like chair tag.
Yeah.
And, it was so much fun. And they did a big presentation for us where they all sang. It was so beautiful. And they had testimonies. And we began to do this on an annual basis. And we would then include others of our friends to come over to hear their presentation, to learn about what their ministry was about, and also to hear the gospel. And so I just think, keep your eyes open and your mind ready to hear the Holy Spirit say, do it. Invite them. It's just an incredible way to live. You're partnering with Christ to love people.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is, it was such a blessing for those students, but you guys received such a blessing because you were able to hear their testimonies. You were able to hear everything about their country. And, your goal was to bless them and to minister to them, but you got such a gift and a blessing out of it. And when we do show hospitality, we do receive such a blessing from it. What about the feeling of when you invite people over and you feel the fear of rejection?
Oh, that's so hard. I remember being a young mom, and when it was time for kids' birthday parties, I don't know, the lump in your throat, just the worry is, are my kids going to have any friends? Do I have friends that will come?
Mm-hmm.
Or inviting somebody to a dinner party. It can be sometimes scary. And I would say, if we're thinking, what if they say no? The truth is, most of the time, a no means not now. It's not you. So again, a no means not now, not you. So it's not a personal rejection of you. People have children's activities and work schedules, aging parents, illnesses, travel. They have commitments. And so instead of thinking what we normally would go to, which is, they don't want to be with me, let's shift our mindset to think, even if this isn't 100% accurate, train ourselves to think instead, they're busy, just like I am sometimes. Or what if they never invite me back? Well, hospitality is not always meant to be transactional. Like in many cases where we've had over different groups of people, like we've had missionaries from other countries. Well, they're not going to have us back at their house. Or, I mentioned in the last episode, we had over a couple that we really enjoyed, but they didn't have us back because they said their house was too small. You know what? That's okay. It would have been nice because we really enjoyed their friendship, but we'll invite them again the next time. We will. It's okay. Don't keep score. Doesn't have to be transactional. Scripture calls us to be generous without keeping score. And some people are naturally inviters and others simply aren't. That doesn't mean they didn't enjoy being with you. And then there's another fear of, what if they don't have fun? Well, people usually remember genuine conversation far more than the menu or the decorations. I
Yeah.
can try to have a good centerpiece, but that's not my thing. I'm still trying, by the way, to do better on that. But instead of that, think, okay, I can ask good questions. I can listen well. We can laugh together. Those things create connection. And then there's a fear of, what if my house isn't nice enough? Well, instead, the mindset could be, okay, an imperfect home often gives others permission to relax.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean if your house is clean that they're not relaxed there. But these are things we can shift our mind by putting off the wrong thinking, putting on a different type of thinking.
Yeah.
So that we're not focused on ourselves.
Yeah. It does kind of make other people feel better when, you might go into a space that's not perfect. We talked about in the last episode of how I'm at Rhonda's house recording and she has towels and sheets folded, when you walk in. And I truly did not even notice it when I first got here. And then when we went to record, I did. But, having people over and seeing things like that might make the people that you're having over relieved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay.
They didn't go out of their way for me. They're just kind of doing life.
Exactly.
I
mean, we
entered into
live
it.
in our houses. So
Mhm.
exactly, you're doing life there.
There's some ways to make inviting easier, because we are fearing rejection and then we just get paralyzed and we don't even do it. But keeping it simple, as we mentioned, dessert or coffee or soup, you just go pick up soup from Panera. And actually, they sell it at Sam's.
Oh, yeah, true.
Do that, or pizza instead of a full meal. But I found sometimes giving people 2 possible dates. So it's easier to say yes. Like, hey, I'd love to take you out to dinner for your birthday. Does Tuesday or Thursday work for you? And then give them a chance. And if it's no, train yourself to not take that personally and just think, okay, I'll ask them again. And ask them again. Does the next Monday or Wednesday work for you? And if they say, no, that doesn't work either, don't take it personally. However, you can choose to ask them again, or maybe you can choose, what, it might not work out and you can let that go. Hold your head high, be yourself, just keep asking. There's lots of people who would love to develop friendships. There's lots of people who need to be loved on, who need to just be welcomed into the home. But again, if they decline, try again, but just don't take it personally. And if you're looking for a place to start with people you already see regularly, like your neighbors, your church friends, co-workers, or another family from your children's activities. As you begin to do that, you'll see beyond that. You'll see to the lady that serves you at the restaurant and the person that works at Starbucks that knows your name. You don't have to tell them that your name's not Londa. They know it's Rhonda. So I think just really seeing the world through Christ's eyes, like, Lord, help me to get over myself with my insecurities I want to use my home. I want to use my things for you. So would you show me what those barriers are for me individually? Help me to think through them, to work around them, to address them head on so that I am prepared and that I'm comfortable so that those things are out of the way and I can focus on my guests in my home to love them well.
But something that you might do is say, when people come over, try to get away from saying, I wanted to do lasagna, but instead I just ordered pizza and I know, blah, blah, blah. They wouldn't even have thought about it.
And
you brought
I'm sorry,
it up.
My house is so messy.
Yeah.
Don't include people in things that they don't even know how to respond to. No, it's not. I mean, you're putting them in an awkward situation.
Right. And they're not thinking that.
And so, remove that temptation to explain yourself and those insecurities you have. Just leave those off because those make people feel uncomfortable anyway. So just begin to invite people over and then just ask the Lord, show me who else. Just let me have a heart of hospitality and open my home whenever that you call me to do it, to whomever I see in whatever way that you put on my mind, from a nice China meal, which sometimes that is amazing, to just, hey, can you come over? I know that you're going through a rough time. I just really want to be present and I want to hear your story. And you just have coffee for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Start small, make it about other people, and try to relieve these barriers that you might have in your heart and mind before inviting people over. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this 2-part series on hospitality. And Rhonda, thank you so much, as always.
Yes, this has been very helpful. And remember, don't let the fear of hearing no keep someone from ever having the opportunity to hear, you're welcome here.
That's really good. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for spending this time with us today. We hope you're walking away encouraged and equipped with something simple you can put into practice right where you are. Remember, it's the small, faithful choices that shape the atmosphere of your home. So wherever you are today, keep cultivating hearts and homes for Christ.